about refrigerator Perry and just how hard he hit. And my mama told me homecoming games are the best on the banks of those late fall, late cartwheel sunsets. I wanted to be just like Jeff Davis when I grew up, tackling Seminoles and Bulldogs, playing football in the mud. So everybody sing Tiger Rag at the top of your lungs, and we'll party like it's 1981. Make those Death Valley lights shine brighter. And for good luck, we got Howard's Rock to beat the hell out of them old Gamecocks. It's a damn good day to be a Clemson Tiger. I feel really sorry for our sisters to the south, 'cause they come up here every other year and get punched in the mouth. Oh, and every home Saturday, it gives us the chills to watch those boys in orange run together down that hill. So everybody sing Tiger Rag at the top of your lungs, and we'll party like it's 1981. Make those Death Valley lights shine brighter. And for good luck, we got Howard's Rock to beat the hell out of them old Gamecocks. It's a damn good day to be a Clemson Tiger. Oh, somewhere up in heaven, Gaines Adams makes us sad. And that old Banks McFadden is the best damn running back. So everybody sing Tiger Rag at the top of your lungs, and we'll party like it's 1981. Make those Death Valley lights shine brighter. And for good luck, we got Howard's Rock to beat the hell out of them old Gamecocks. It's a damn good day to be a Clemson Tiger. It's a damn good day to be a Clemson Tiger. Everybody, damn good day to be a Clemson Tiger. Oh yeah.
Good afternoon, everybody. Pigskin Pete here. Happy Wednesday to everybody. Glad to be back with you guys today. Had a lot going on yesterday. Couldn't do a show, but I'm sure you didn't miss me. I wouldn't have either. Good afternoon, college football maniac. So the subject for the show today is going to actually be something I was thinking about when I was driving today. Is a lot of the interesting storylines throughout college football. Now, when I say the most interesting storylines, I'm looking for teams that may either have interesting storylines off the field or unexpected storylines on the field. So, I mean, you could look at probably, 15 different teams throughout the Power 5 conferences that have interesting storylines. Pretty much every new coaching change. This might be the most interesting year out of all of them for storylines for coaching changes. I mean, let's just go through them here. And I'm not going to go too in depth into these teams, but you got Tennessee, Florida, Mississippi State, Texas A&M, Arkansas. Let's see here. Half of the teams in the Pac-12, maybe. I mean, Chip Kelly at UCLA, Arizona and Arizona State. Oregon, promoting that guy from within. Throughout the Big Ten, of course. I mean, it's always an interesting storyline to see what's going on at Michigan. Can Jim Harbaugh break through there? Obviously, what's going on with Ohio State? How's that all going to pan out? I mean, it's just there's so much going on. Good afternoon, Oregon Ducks football. How you doing, sir? Oregon's the number one dark horse in college football. Yeah, I mean, there's several really interesting dark horses in college football. I would put Oregon on that list for sure. I'm not going to debate that. So I would say if you wanted to pick one dark horse out of each conference, for instance, I would probably, and this is somebody that knows nobody's talking about in the Pac-12, and Oregon Ducks football, you could probably confirm or deny this. This is the one that I'm hearing over and over and over again, is Utah. So Utah gets Washington at home. Utah gets Southern Cal at home this year, and supposedly has a very good team. There's a lot of people saying that Utah could actually win the Pac-12 South this year. Now, I'm not going to lie. I don't know enough about about Utah's roster and team to make that determination. I'm just saying that as somebody that just follows some other conferences casually, that's one that I'm hearing come up over and over and over again. So Oregon Ducks football, maybe you can give me a little bit of insight on what you think about Utah. Now, as far as Oregon goes, who was it that was on here the other day? Drake Luke, what's he call himself now? Wrong on Purpose, I think it is. Wrong on Purpose was asking me what I thought Oregon was going to do this year. And I said to him, I thought they were basically going to win 7 or 8 games. I know they won 7 games last year. And good afternoon, DeGoat Watson. Everyone's as tired as you, sir. I'm as tired as you. I'm always tired, so that doesn't change. I said that I thought that Oregon was going to be a 7 or 8 win team. Now, I could be completely off on that. Clemson Carson, how you doing? Good afternoon, sir. Anybody with the name Clemson in front of their name is clearly a genius and fantastic and amazing. So it's always good to have fellow Clemson Tigers tuning into Pigskin Pete because we are connected in one way or another. Another team that I think is very interesting this year, and like I said, there's probably 15 or 20 teams in the Power 5 that are interesting this year, without a doubt. Now, I'm not saying these are dark horses to win anything, but interesting nonetheless. And College Football Maniac, it reminded me of it because he's a Gamecock fan. The Gamecocks are certainly one of the most interesting teams this year. There's a lot of high hopes for the Gamecocks. Now, if you're like me, you run around, 3/4 of the day saying that, they're always this way and they're always having high hopes. But listen, I mean, there's some people picking them to win the East. I'm not. I'm picking Georgia to win the East. But there's a lot of people out there that think that South Carolina could be a team that could upset Georgia. So that's interesting in itself. And plus, they play each other early in the year. Of course, Jimbo Fisher going to Texas A&M is interesting. He's going to have some talent there, not as much talent as you would want him to have. But the fact that they play Clemson week 2 is interesting, right? I mean, can Texas A&M somehow become the second best team in the West in 1 year? I don't think so. I still think they'll finish 3rd, maybe in 4th, because if you put Mississippi State in there, you just never know. The Big Ten is always interesting. As far as the Pac-12 goes, this might be the most interested I've been in the Pac-12 in preseason than I've ever been. Period. I'm going to pay way more attention, watch way more Pac-12 games that are on late at night than I normally would just go to bed at halftime or not watch at all. Because I want to see Kevin Sumlin. I want to see Chip Kelly. I want to see how that all pans out. And I even want to see what's-his-face at Arizona State. I want to see how that all works out. So lots and lots of interesting storylines. Willie Taggart at Florida State. I mean, he inherited a top, Jimbo Fisher gave him what was, before he left, a top 3 recruiting class every single year. Or top 5 anyway. So what is Willie Taggart going to be able to do in his first year in a totally different type of system with the weapons that he has on that team? I mean, could Florida State go out there and upset people and give Clemson a run for their money in that division? Who knows? Spencer from Rover Sports. Good afternoon, sir. Welcome to the stream. Anybody who doesn't know Spencer from Rover Sports, he covers college football. He covers everything. NFL, big Giants fan. Go check him out. He's an amazing YouTuber and fantastic and amazing and all of the above. You think the Huskers, Oregon, Minnesota, Baylor. Baylor's another one. That's another really good one. Minnesota, Baylor, Michigan, all interesting. So I would say Minnesota is definitely on that list. You know what? There might be more teams that are interesting than there aren't. I mean, we could talk all day about teams that are interesting. Minnesota is definitely one that goes, overlooked, even by me. I'll admit it. I'm guilty of it. What's his face? Row the boat guy. His name is escaping me at the moment. Christopher Goodrich. Good afternoon, sir. I'm glad you could stop in. Don't be a stranger, because the Pigskin Pete YouTube channel is always fantastic. And if you don't stop in and see what's going on, then you have clearly missed the boat. And you'll be slapping yourself later on for not stopping in. So thank you for doing that. Wait. Clemson Carson. Are you Anna Carson, sir? Did you finally change your name from Anna Carson to Clemson Carson? I appreciate that. I don't know why you didn't do it sooner, but I'm glad. Better late than never, sir. So kudos for that. PJ Fleck. That's right, PJ Fleck. Row the boat. Mr. Motivational Speaker himself. He makes Butch Jones look like an amateur when it comes to motivational speaking. I've always said that. And if anything else, he may not win, 10 games or 11 games, but he'll win the hearts and minds of everybody in Minnesota. I actually do think he's a pretty good coach. The problem is he's at Minnesota. He's I don't know. There's something I don't mind. Even Dabo Sweeney is a little bit rah-rah. He's a rah-rah guy, but he's also a very tough coach. He's very tough on his players. The PJ Flecks and the Butch Jones of the world, I'm not sold that they're tough coaches. I think that they're just all rah-rah. They're just all motivational speaking. I mean, it gets a little bit sticky sometimes. I mean, first of all, nobody's rowing boats in the wintertime in Minnesota. The lakes are all frozen over. And by the way, he did that row the boat thing at, where was that? Central Michigan, Western Michigan, Eastern Michigan. I don't know. I don't care. One of those Michigan teams in the group of 5. And then he took the same exact crap to Minnesota. At least come up with a new thing, right? What is it? What is it in Minnesota? That's different about Michigan. I don't know. What is it about Minnesota that makes Minnesota Minnesota? I mean, if you're in Texas, right, you talk about cowboy stuff. If you're in Florida, you talk about palm tree stuff, right? What is it about Minnesota that makes Minnesota Minnesota? And row that, whatever it is, just make it something different, and not so boring. Drake Luke. I call him Prince. You remember Prince, the artist, right? The artist formerly known as Prince. He is the artist formerly known as Drake Luke. Wrong on purpose. And soon he will change his name to A Symbol, just like Prince did. Yeah, Michigan is a joke. That nobody's debating that. That's a fact in itself. Billy Dawson, good afternoon, sir. How are you doing? Thank you for stopping in, and I appreciate it as always, sir. All we do in the Midwest is ice fishing during the winter if we are on a lake. All right, then do it. Then make it. I don't know. Drill the hole instead of row the boat. Drill that hole. You gotta drill a hole in order to ice fish, right? Drill the hole. I mean, yeah, he can make some kind of motivational speak out of that about drilling the hole and pitching the tent, right? Don't you put a tent over it? Drill the hole, pitch a tent with Oregon. I hope you're being facetious. Yeah, it wouldn't be a game. You're right. Oregon was supposed to play Clemson when? Are you talking about basketball? If you guys are talking about basketball, then I've already been lost before you started talking about it. Oh, yeah. I do know Oregon has a pretty good basketball team. That is true. Anyways. Oh, the other one I forgot about, maybe one of the most interesting storylines in all of college football, other than the dozen that I already named, is Scott Frost going to Nebraska. Now, of course, everybody's pretty much in consensus that it's going to take Scott Frost, whatever it is, at least three recruiting cycles to turn that thing around. But I think that Scott Frost is going to be one of the top coaches in the Big Ten within the next few years, for sure. and eventually maybe in the country. I'm a big believer in Scott Frost. I just am. He reminds me a lot of Dabo. Billy Dawson says, great video on Jalen Ramsey. Thank you, sir. Not a video I like to make. I don't like to talk about race and religion and all that because this is a football channel. But I couldn't help myself when I see something that is just so obvious to me is what the things that Jalen Ramsey said. I couldn't help myself. I know he's a trash talker. I get it. And he's a great player, and he's a trash talker. It's just all I'm saying is if the roles were reversed, believe me, there would be an outcry. It wouldn't. No, I didn't even see anybody in the media today questioning the route. The way that I looked at it. They just see him trashing quarterbacks. I see it a different way because it was just so obvious. It was just so obvious. I mean, to call Tom Brady pretty good and Ben Roethlisberger, not impressive. Coming from a guy who's never won anything for the team he's played for is ridiculous. It's just ridiculous. He's butthurt. I'm sure I'm going to get a lot of backlash. I'm already getting some backlash about that video, which is why I don't like making videos like that, which is why I never have. But it is what it is. This channel, to me, has always been about being myself and being honest. And a lot of those videos I make, I literally read the information or hear it on radio and turn the camera on immediately to get my most genuine and instant reaction to what I'm hearing or seeing, so that there's no predetermined motive to what I'm saying. And that's exactly what that was. That was an immediate reaction to what I heard. And that's why I did it. Here's the thing about Oregon. Oregon Ducks football. By the way, thank you for stopping in, sir. I really appreciate it. I'm always glad to see Pac-12 fans, Big 10 fans, Big 12 fans, everybody on here. I think, unfortunately for Oregon, the biggest problem with Oregon is that they're changed. This is the third year they've had a brand new head coach. Now I realize this guy. Excuse me, I got the hiccups. I realized that this guy was promoted from within. He was already on the staff under Willie Taggart. He's still a new head coach. I don't care if he's been there or not. So 3 head coaches in 3 years is not a winning formula. So Oregon fans get all butthurt when I say that if they win 7 or 8 games this year, they're doing good. It's because how many first-year coaches in the Power 5 go from 7 wins to 10 or 11 or win their conference? It's unheard of. I mean, Dabo didn't do it. Nick Saban didn't do it. Kirby Smart didn't do it. None of these guys did it their first year. It's just too hard to do. So I think that if you can salvage 7 or 8 wins, you're doing good. In my opinion, prove me wrong. Maybe I'm wrong. I don't know. Yeah. Go back up here and see what you guys are saying. Jalen Ramsey is doing what every top cornerback did. Remember when Sherman got his first take and Skip in Better Life? And told Skip, first take. I'm better at life than you at 25. Yeah, well. It's a little bit different. There's a difference between being cocky and arrogant and just being outright like hateful against a certain group of people. In my opinion. Chip Kelly talent and Clemson you'd love to watch. Sir, Oregon Ducks football. If Clemson played UCLA or any Chip Kelly team for that matter, they would get absolutely road graded and embarrassed. There's no comparison there. Sorry. Yeah, there's no disrespect to Oregon. It is what it is, man. Listen, Listen, when Oregon was a top 5 team in the country, some would say even top 3 during those Chip Kelly years, at that time, Clemson could not have probably competed with Oregon. I mean, it's 2 different time periods. Clemson did not have the talent at that time to compete with the talent that Oregon had. Simple. And definitely right now, Oregon does not have any chance to compete with Clemson's talent. Very few teams in the country actually do have a chance to do that right now. Clemson Jacob, good afternoon, sir. Well, thank you for joining the stream. Spencer from Rover Sports says, Nebraska will recruit everywhere. The Big Red Inn is one of the best fan bases in college football. Yes, I actually do feel sorry for Nebraska's fans. They have lived through... I can relate to Nebraska fans in a way. As a lifelong Clemson fan, saw Clemson go from the apex of college football, when I was very young. I mean, too young to remember, but still, it did happen, to going through a 20-year, at least 25-year period of just mediocrity. Clemson wasn't a terrible team during that time. They weren't a great team. They were just mediocre, 8-win team on average every year, not blowing anybody's socks off. Nobody really cared. Sometimes they were in the top 25, sometimes they weren't. And that's what Nebraska's been for the past 20 years or so. So I can relate as a fan to Nebraska, what they've been going through. The same thing with Georgia. Now, some would say that Georgia has been better than average the past 30 years, but just haven't been able to get over that hump. That's probably true. I mean, when Mark Richt was there, they were winning 10 games every year, on average. That's better than average. But still, winning 10 games every year, but not hardly ever winning your conference and not being in the top 5 every year is disappointing. When you're right there on the cusp. So I relate to Georgia fans. I actually was rooting for Georgia to win the national title game last year, just for the Georgia fans. I didn't have a dog in the fight. I didn't care. I mean, I didn't lose an ounce of sleep that Georgia lost that game. I didn't care, and I don't hate Alabama, so it wasn't that. It was just I thought. I remember what it felt like as a Clemson fan to see my team win a national title for the first time in 30-something years. And I remember how great it was. I remember how I didn't sleep for 3 days. I was so excited. And so I wanted the Georgia fans to experience that. So I can relate. I can relate to Nebraska. I can relate to Georgia, teams like that, as a Clemson fan. Clemson Carson says, Pigskin Pete, what do you think the score of the South Carolina-Georgia game will be in week 2? I'm gonna say 27-21. Georgia. Could even be closer. It could be 24-27. I think Georgia's gonna win a close game in Columbia. Clemson Jacob says, did I cry? Are you talking about when Clemson won the national championship? Yes, I did, sir. I absolutely cried tears of joy. Only time I've ever cried as an adult for a sporting event. I did. I'm not ashamed to admit it. I cried. And I think that any other if there's a Georgia fan out there, somebody who's a diehard Georgia fan, lifelong Georgia fan, somebody like Uncle Lou, believe me, if Georgia won, they would cry too. And if they say that they wouldn't, they're lying. George, good afternoon, sir. He says, "Go Gators, go airsoft guns and frying pans." I will tell you this though, George. We have something in common, sir. We both. I hope that Florida beats South Carolina this year. So there will be at least one game this year. At least one, sir. That we will both be rooting for the same team. I'll be rooting for the Florida Gators the week that they play South Carolina. So, pretty good prediction, Clemson Carson. Miranda Dansby says it was the best moment ever seen when we won. Yes, it was an amazing, a magical night. Magical. Spencer says, wow, Pigskin really giving USC a chance against the Dogs. Most important game for Muschamp. Yeah, so I give them a chance. I'm not alone in that. Spencer, here's the way it works, sir. For me, anyway. I can only speak for me, and that's all that matters, on this channel. But I give the South Carolina, of course, anything can happen in one game. South Carolina, it's in South Carolina. It's early in the season. Georgia's replacing a lot of their biggest playmakers on offense. That if this game were played later in the year, let's put it this way. If this game were played in week 8 or 9, I'm picking Georgia by 2 touchdowns. The fact that it's week 2, South Carolina, and it's in Columbia, I think that South Carolina has a chance to win that game. Now, the caveat to that is, regardless of who wins that game, I don't think that South Carolina is winning the East. I think Georgia can lose that game week 2 and still going to win the East. There you go. George says that Florida was a street gang posing as a football team. Oh, George, at least you can laugh at your own team, sir. That's good stuff. Clemson Carson says, we are still the only team to beat Nick Saban in the national championship. I guess that's true, because when Ohio State beat them in the Sugar Bowl, that wasn't the national championship, right? That was the first round of the playoffs. So, wow, is that true? Is that we're the only team to beat Nick Saban in a national title game? I guess you're right. I never even thought about that. Because when he's at LSU, 1-1. Who else did they beat at Alabama? Well, they beat LSU at Alabama that one year. Now they beat Clemson, Georgia. I'm missing one. I'm missing one game that the Tide won under Saban. I can't think of. Who was it? DeGoat Watson says he's a diehard fan. He didn't cry probably because he's been a fan since 2013. Yeah. I mean, I guess you're a lot younger than me. I suffered through 30 years of Clemson not winning a title, and it was a big deal for me and my family for sure. DeGoat Watson, I'll answer that for you, Clemson Carson. He says, DeGoat Watson, how did you become a Clemson fan? Well, he went to Clemson, sir. I think he became a fan whenever he enrolled there, is my guess. I don't know. He could probably tell you. That's my guess. Oh, Notre Dame. That's the other one. Thank you, sir. Oh, God, oh man. And not only did they beat Notre Dame, that was the worst national title game I've ever seen. What an embarrassing game that was. Notre Dame just got absolutely mollywopped. Notre Dame was not the second best team in the country that year. I realized that they were undefeated going into that game, but they just got absolutely road graded. That was not that game was over before it started. I remember that game. That game was in Miami, right? In the Orange Bowl. Oregon is 1-0 versus Nick Saban. We blew him out in 98 when he was at Michigan State. Yeah, well, Oregon's duck football. Sorry, sir, but 1998 was 20 years ago. Yeah, I mean, Sooner Ace, good afternoon, sir. Welcome to the stream. Hope you're doing fantastic and amazing, and I'm sure you are if you're here. OU is 1-1 versus Saban. OU beat Alabama in what was it, the Sugar Bowl, if I'm not mistaken, a few years ago. 2013 maybe, 14, something like that. UGA almost lost to Notre Dame last year. It was a scary game. Notre Dame is a tough team at home, which is why I'm picking Notre Dame to beat Michigan week 1. Michigan fans are crying and moaning and groaning when I say that. They come on here and tell me I'm an idiot and I don't know anything about football and I just hate Michigan and this and that and I hate Harbaugh, blah, 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 blah. Cry me a friggin' river. The bottom line is I think that Notre Dame, if this game were in Michigan, I might pick Michigan. But it's not. It's not in Michigan. Newsflash. The game's in Notre Dame. I'm picking Notre Dame. Notre Dame's hard to beat at home. That's one of the toughest venues to play in all of football. Clemson plays there, when is it, next year or the year after? 2020, I think. We traveled there. I'm looking forward to that. But yes. Oregon is more motivated than all of you. Oregon Ducks football. Oregon may be motivated, but players win games, sir. They can be motivated till the cows come home. You still have to have the talent. Right now, Oregon does not have as much talent as Washington in your own division, let alone Alabama, Georgia, Clemson, Ohio State, and Oklahoma. I'm not going to argue with that, sir. When you say that Oregon should at least be ranked in the top 25, I haven't even seen the top. I agree. I think I agree with you. I think that they should be ranked in the top 25. Maybe 24th. I mean, seriously, but they should be ranked in the top 25. So I was right. 2013, that was the year that Oklahoma beat Alabama in a bowl game, right? Or am I wrong about that? I think I remember that. It was either Oklahoma or TCU that did that. South Carolina's ranked 22. Hey, College Football Maniac, I'm actually surprised that South Carolina was not ranked higher than that based on the love that they're getting in the media. I'm surprised. I thought that South Carolina would be ranked in the top 20, maybe somewhere around 18 or 19. So the fact that they're ranked 22, they're certainly in the top. South Carolina is certainly one of the top 25 best teams in the country this year. I think they'll finish higher than 22. They may finish in the top 15. They may. That's if they don't let the wheels fall off and get beat by Kentucky again and Texas A&M. But if they win the games they're supposed to win, and let's be real here, they should beat Kentucky. They're better than Kentucky. All right, let's be real here. They should beat Texas A&M at least this year. They should. That game's in South Carolina too. The Texas A&M game. They should beat them. If they only lose to Clemson and Georgia, that's the only two teams they should lose to this year. Then they'll be in the top 20 at the end of the season, maybe top 15. Oregon will prove themselves against Washington. Agree or disagree? Answers in week 7. Yeah, well, that's the measuring stick, sir. The measuring stick is Washington. That's a conference game. It's a divisional game for Oregon. If Oregon beats Washington week 7, it's also going to depend on what happens. You know, if Oregon's only 2-5 going into that game, no, that game is meaningless and pointless. But let's say the Oregon's a one-loss team going into that week, and then they knock Washington off. Yeah, that is a huge game for them. If they're 7-1 after they play, or 6-1 after they play Washington, and they beat Washington, I'll be a believer in Oregon. Until then, I'm not. Michigan's ranked higher than you. Don't even get me started on Michigan. I don't get it. I don't get the Michigan hype. I know they have a great defense. But what else they got? They got Shea Patterson. Great. First year in that system. Shea Patterson was hurt last year, wasn't he? Didn't he miss half the year at Ole Miss? I mean, it's just too much unknowns with them. I'm not a believer in Michigan until they do something. The minute they do something, I'll be a believer. Until then, I'm not. Plus, South Carolina beat Michigan last year. Do I think Justin Ross and T. Higgins will be Sammy Watkins and DeAndre Hopkins? I love that to happen. That's a pretty good comparison. It's easy to say they're going to be that before they actually are. You know what I mean? Sammy Watkins might have been the best receiver just out of high school ever in Clemson's history, maybe in the country. I mean, Dabo even said that there's some guys that come in there like DeAndre Hopkins, Deion Kane, some of these other really great receivers that have come through there that just take a year or so to get it. He said Sammy Watkins walked through that door out of high school and was the best player on the team, and just naturally. So Higgins obviously is one of those guys that took a year. I mean, last year he had an okay year. He'll be much better this year. Justin Ross may be that guy who's just ready right out of the gate. I don't know. Either way, I think they're going to be a great duo for the next at least 2 years or 3. Oregon Ducks football says kickoff in 10 days. Group of 5 teams, though, 15 days till Power 5. Hey, listen, I will watch a group of 5 game right now. If there's one on TV, let me know. I'll watch it. I don't care. I'll even watch preseason NFL football. It doesn't matter. Football is football at this point. I can't. High school football is about to start. Super excited about that. I live about 500 yards away from my high school. Not my high school, but where my kids are going to go. Stadium. Nice high school stadium too. I'm looking forward to going to a game there here. I think it starts next week, next Friday. Pigskin Pete had an okay year because Kelly Bryant was throwing the ball. Look at Deion Kane, look at Deshaun Watson, and without Watson. Yeah, but I also believe that Kelly Bryant is much improved this year from last year. Everybody on the team says it. Every coach says it. They say that from where he was last year. You got to understand, when Kelly Bryant took over last year, he hadn't started a football game since high school, and he was a junior in college. So, I mean, you're talking about over 3 years, he hadn't started a football game as a quarterback. And he came in and took over a defending national championship team. And they had one of the toughest schedules in the country last year. This year they don't, but they did last year. And he played pretty well considering all those things. And they're saying he's light years ahead of where he was last year. And I believe him. So, yeah. I mean, I think what we're going to end up seeing is both. And I don't like this, but it's going to end up happening. At least the first half of the season, we're going to see a 2-quarterback system. We're going to see probably about 60-40, 50-50 split in live game reps between Trevor Lawrence and Kelly Bryant for them to try to figure out who's going to take that job. I don't like the 2-quarterback system thing. I never did, never will. So we'll see how that all works out. A quarterback that can pass will make you that much better. Yeah, of course it will. Especially in the modern day football. It used to be ground and pound and play defense wins championships. Nowadays, you got to be able to throw the ball. Just ask Tua Tagovailoa. He'll tell you all about it. And so will Jalen Hurts. Clemson. Opie is much better than last year. I know he did good last year, but was a little disappointed with his performance last year. He could have done much better than he did. I don't know that he could have done much better than he did. I thought he did pretty damn good. Wasn't good enough, Miranda. But it's easy to say he should have done better. But as a first-year starter, I thought he did pretty good. Now, if he doesn't do better this year, I'll agree with you. But as far as how he did last year, he took us to the playoffs, which is pretty damn good. And he beat some – listen, we beat Virginia Tech on the road, primetime game, Louisville on the road, primetime game, Auburn at home, NC State on the road, primetime game. Of course, he beat Florida State, but that was in Clemson. I mean, he beat 3 top 15 teams in the month of September. First time that's ever been done. So he was not a terrible quarterback. I mean, he wasn't a prolific passer, but he won. He did what he had to do to win, which was good enough for me. I agree to go. Watson says 2-quarterback systems destroys chemistry. I do not like 2-quarterback systems. It's hard for the quarterback to get in a rhythm. Neither one of them seems to ever really get comfortable in a game. And plus, once the guy knows he's the guy, he plays with more confidence than he does if he's just one of 2 guys. I mean, that's just my opinion. It seems like every time these teams do 2-quarterback systems, it never works out. I don't like it at all. So I hope they don't do that. If it's going to be Kelly Bryant, I'd rather see them make Kelly Bryant the starter until he proves that he's not good enough. If he's not good enough, I'd like to see Trevor Lawrence be the starter and let him go through his growing pains or whatever and just get it over with. So I agree with you. Well, that's a good point you make, Miranda Dansby. She says he wasn't terrible, but she thinks after the accident he was a little off. And by the accident, what she's referring to is his concussion in the Syracuse game. Which I am not one to criticize Dabo Swinney or the coaching staff. I think that Dabo Swinney is an elite coach in the country. I think anybody can agree with that. I hardly ever criticize anything that coaching staff does. Kelly Bryant should have never been playing in that game for any reason. There's not a reason that anybody can articulate to me that's going to convince me that Kelly Bryant should have been playing in that Syracuse game. He's a running quarterback, or especially last year, he was definitely a running quarterback. He ran the ball more than he threw it, and he had he had a hurt ankle. He was noticeably limping out there on the football field, and they didn't take him out, and that's what led to his concussion. So I'm here to criticize my own team. I wasn't happy about it last year. When I think back on it now, I'm still not happy about it. He should have never been playing in that game. And then to make things worse, this is what really pissed me off, is the first that they started them in the game and they got hurt. Second of all, whenever he did get hurt, instead of putting in Hunter Johnson, who was clearly the second best quarterback on that team, they put in what was his name? Zaire. Not Malik Zaire. I can't even remember his name. That's how much he sucked. But he was terrible. And so, anyway, it is what it is. And there's about 10 reasons they deserve to lose that game. And those are 3 of them right there. Yeah, Feaster and Choice, big power backs. Good news is ETN gained 20 pounds, I think, yesterday. And he's bigger and faster and stronger. I'm telling you, ETN's going to be a beast. This is the best running back group we've had in over 10 years. Not even close. Yeah, because Zarek Cooper. I was saying Zaire. Yeah, Zarek Cooper. I don't know, what were they thinking? And that wasn't the only game that he came in as the second string. When Hunter Johnson was clearly better than him, I don't know what that was about. I don't know if Hunter Johnson was, did Zarek Cooper have some dirt on one of the coaches and they made him second string? I don't know. But he clearly was not the second best quarterback on that team. I don't know what that was all about. I will never understand that from now until the day I die. Royce Freeman was a beast preseason. Rolls Royce, Pigskin. Your Panthers defenses better watch out for Royce. Yeah. I'm assuming you're a Seattle fan if you're saying that. But I'm not worried about it at all because Seattle is a shell of what they used to be. So, yeah. Dakota Watson says he was screaming. Sorry, my scroll is going crazy here. I missed it. He said he's screaming so bad during the Syracuse game. What is going on with this thing? Put in Hunter Renfrow. What the F is wrong with you? You know what's funny? So they're saying, Dabo said that Hunter Renfrow might take some quarterback snaps this year. Now, for anybody that doesn't know, everybody knows Hunter Renfrow is the walk-on quarterback who made big catches in the national title games at Clemson. He was an elite quarterback in high school. And I say elite. They say, well, why didn't he play college quarterback? Well, he wasn't recruited as a college quarterback. He won, I think, state championships as a high school quarterback, though, in South Carolina. Because of his size, mainly, I think is what it was. But clearly, he's very fast, and he's a great receiver, and he will be drafted in the NFL as a receiver. He just will. Probably for the Patriots or somebody like that, because they all have the little white guys, slot receivers. Or Belichick does anyway. But he was a very good quarterback in high school, so he can play the position. He's a hell of an athlete. And so I wouldn't be surprised if week 1, since we're playing a high school team in Furman, I wouldn't be surprised if you see Hunter Renfrow either play a series or at least a couple of snaps at quarterback position and actually throw the ball, which would be fun to see against somebody like Furman. If he tries to do that shit against somebody like Florida State or NC State or Texas A&M, I'll be pulling my hair out. But it would be fun to see him, get a 50-yard touchdown pass against Furman, wouldn't it? I mean, come on. That would be fun to see. Well, Hunter Johnson too, sir. But your misprint gave me something fun to talk about, because it was something that was mentioned by Dabo Swinney in the press conference yesterday, as he said, hell, we might even put Hunter Renfrow at quarterback for a few plays this season and see what he can do. And I think he was being serious, because like I said, Renfrow was a quarterback in high school. Yes, and he did win a state championship, so I was right about that. DeGoat Watson says Clemson was cocky before the Sugar Bowl while Alabama were focused and motivated. I don't think Clemson was cocky before the Sugar Bowl. I think that Alabama was just a better... Last year was a rebuild year for Clemson, yet we still made it to the playoff. We weren't cocky. We just... Here's the thing is, everyone wants to make excuses. Kelly Bryant wasn't good enough. Dabo didn't have the team ready. Here's the bottom line. At the Sugar Bowl last year, when you just break it all down to its purest level, Alabama had more talent and was a better team last year than Clemson was. That's it. You don't have to read between the lines. You don't have to look at start blaming people. In games like that, between two elite teams, talent wins. Alabama had more talent overall last year than Clemson did. Enough said. Better team won last year. This year could be a different story, though. This year will be a different story, I promise. Yes, Clemson Carson. I made a whole video on that, sir, about the redemption factor. It's huge. It's huge in college football, especially. And yeah, it's hard to win back-to-back titles. I don't think Saban's done it. As great as they are, have they won back-to-back national championships? I don't think so. Very hard to do that. Well, a hell of a lot of people thought we would blow them out, but that's, it's easy to say that now. Yeah, Russell Wilson's good, but Seattle's not that good anymore. Yeah, I think Seattle's going to be very disappointing this year. He did. Billy Dawson says he did. 2011 and 2012. All right, so I stand corrected, but even Billy Dawson, you gotta agree with me though. Very hard to win back-to-back national titles, no matter how good your team is. Just is. Very hard to win back-to-back Super Bowls. Very hard to win back-to-back national titles in any sport. Very hard to win back-to-back World Series. Very hard to win back-to-back Super Bowls, national titles in football, whatever. Hockey, basketball, unless you're the Golden State Warriors. Clemson Carson says we can't hold anything back this year. We got to let all of our anger out on teams. I don't think we're holding anything back. I think you're going to see an angry and motivated Clemson team this year. Some of these poor ACC teams, I feel sorry for them. They're just going to get absolutely crushed. Their souls are going to get destroyed. Syracuse might, after we play Syracuse this year and Clemson, they might extinguish their football program from here on out. They just might give up football altogether. Then you get humiliated so bad. It's going to be embarrassing. We're going to crush their spirit and their soul in front of everybody. I think Texas A&M has a nightmare week 2 to walk into. You know how hungry that's going to be. Listen, we're playing Furman week 1. That's going to be a scrimmage game for Clemson, a glorified scrimmage at best. And then we go on the road week 2 to College Station to play Jimbo Fisher-led Texas A&M team, an SEC team. Trust me, it'll be a primetime game. Everybody will be watching it. And Clemson's going to be angry and pissed off, especially that defense. They're going to go in there and absolutely crush the soul of Jimbo Fisher's team. Texas A&M might not even win another game after that. They're going to be so destroyed. They might fire Jimbo Fisher a second game. Yeah, I'm ready for the season to start too. Yeah, any ACC team out there, I mean, they're already putting ice packs on, looking at Clemson on the schedule. Yeah, I think Clemson's going to destroy Florida State too. Actually, by the way, I want to give a big shout out to Small Vol. You just reminded me. Small Vol has a podcast and a YouTube channel. He's a Tennessee fan. Had me on yesterday on his podcast. He posted it on Apple iTunes, I think, or Apple Podcasts. And he says he's going to post it on his YouTube channel as well. But we went over the whole Clemson season. I was on the show for about an hour. I did pick Clemson in that podcast to lose. I had to pick him to lose one game. He had them going 12-0, which I would love to do. But I just think it's so hard to go 12-0. So unfortunately, to the dismay of every Clemson viewer out there, I had to pick them to lose one game. I had to pick him to lose something. So I picked Florida State because it was on the road. So, you know, I don't think that Clemson's going to lose to Florida State, but I had to pick one, and that's the one I picked. So it is what it is. But thank you, Small Ball, for having me on. That was a lot of fun, sir. Clemson Carson, we need to wear white more than orange this season. We only wear the orange breeches during must-win games. Usually starts right around the South Carolina game. And then playoff games, title games, that sort of thing. You won't see the orange breeches come out till week 10, at least. Maybe 11. Billy Dawson says if you go 12-0, you end up losing a game you don't want to. Yeah, losing a game is definitely a motivation to not lose again for a great team. So I agree with you there. Yeah, everyone has their favorite uniforms. Solid orange is mine. All orange. Orange everything. Yeah, see, that's the thing. We wore the white uniforms in the Alabama-Clemson game when we won the title. When it comes to the national championship game, the home team gets to wear their colors. So we weren't the home team that year. Alabama was considered the home team, so we had to wear white. The year before that, we were considered the home team because we were undefeated going into that game. We were a solid orange. So it doesn't matter. You don't have a choice what you wear in the national title game. You're told what to wear. If you're the home team, you wear your colors. If you're not, you don't. So, anyway, listen, I gotta go. It's been an hour. I've had a great time as always. Always enjoy you guys stopping in, chopping it up with me. Every single one of you is amazing and fantastic. I can't stress that enough. And of course you are, or you wouldn't be here. So I gotta go. I didn't realize what time it was till just now because I was having too much fun chopping it up with all you fine folks. I will be back. What's today? Wednesday. I will be back tomorrow afternoon. Same time, same place, same bat channel. Yeah. Have a great day. Pigskin Pete checking out.